Hello and welcome to O and IDEM's collaborative program, the Verse series. And today we have with us Vijayalakshmi, who is a celebrated Mohiniyattam dancer. But when I say this, I should pause for a bit and tell you that Vijayalakshmi is a lot more than a Mohiniyattam dancer, and there's a lot that we will find out in this conversation with Vijayalakshmi, and there's a lot to unpack here. Stay tuned. Hello Vijayalakshmi, welcome to this verse series. It's very wonderful to have you here with us. And your journey has been through from when you started Mohiniyattam very, very young, but you were a dancer before you stepped into Mohiniyattam. And I want to start with this particular thing that, you know, we live in a world of specialization, and we tend to box people. And we tend to say Vijayalakshmi is a dancer, and then we don't want to see the many layers, or we don't wait to see that. But there's so much to discover. There's so much that you have done, more than dancing, and through dancing you have brought before us a lot for us to take in. And so I'm beginning this interview with this particular question that's going to start with your exploration of poetry. You had done a performance of Sudeep Sen's The Rain. Could you begin telling us by your interest in poetry and how you took to this particular genre?
Namaste. First of all, I'm so happy to be here today to be in conversation with Lakshmi, who heads the O organization and AIDEM. And I'm really grateful to Venkatesh Ramakrishnan and Lakshmi for featuring me in this series. And so it's so joyful to be here in Delhi, my city, my hometown. Poetry is something that I've always been very, very passionate about since childhood. Perhaps because my father has a big role to play, because he was obsessed with Shakespeare, eating, breathing, sleeping Shakespeare, although he was a chartered accountant by profession. But it was always Shakespeare and poetry that sort of resonated in our home. It was music, dance, and Shakespeare. So undoubtedly that had a big impact on me. And I also used to write a bit of poetry during my teen years, English poetry. And my, of course, favorite poet was John Donne, and so was my father's. And with Sudeep Sen's project, it sort of happened, I stumbled upon it. Sudeep felt that he had watched me perform, and he said that this collaboration would work very well. And so it was at his behest that we both sort of plunged into it. And I sort of plunged into it and started working on the script. Of course, it's a beautiful book of poetry. It is written, English poetry. And the script was written by a LA-based collaborator and filmmaker, Sarah Bauer, with whom I've collaborated a lot. And for the music, what I did, and personally, rain is also my favorite season. So I think a lot of what I do, almost all of it has to resonate with me a lot, whether it's music, poetry, concept, or whatever else it may be. So for me, the music, the poetry resonated, English poetry, rain. So I thought for the first time, I introduced Drupad music into Mohiniyattam. It was never done before.
Okay.
And because the poet was Bengali, of course you had to have rain in Bengal. How can the book not feature rain in Bengal? But because I grew up listening to my mother sing Rabindra Sangeet, which I love Tagore and Rabindra Sangeet, I thought, why not I just sing the song myself? So there is this Monomor Meghiru Shongi, this very beautiful, powerful Rabindra Sangeet, which I sang, and I collaborated with one of the most eminent composers of Hollywood called Mac Quayle.
Wow.
So I sung it, and Mac arranged the music. And then so the music, the soundtrack of Rain has Kerala Sopana music, it has Drupad the music, it has Rabindra Sangeet sung by me, and somewhere it also ties up where Mac takes all of it also to the level of world music. So it's very beautiful and so all-encompassing.
Yes, and it's wonderful that you talk about that, because the movement, you have also mentioned how the dance movement is also like a river. There's water, and it's very interesting that you've explored this movement in so many different ways. We talk about some of the issues that we face in this very fast-paced world, and you have talked about how movement of this particular sort of movement and the Mohiniyattam dance form itself, how it is relevant and important, especially for women to take it up, if not to perform. Would you like to speak a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked me this question, because the technique of Mohiniyattam, as you very rightly said, in this very fast-paced world, the slow movements of Mohiniyattam offer women the opportunity to release pent-up stress in their bodies, pent-up emotions in their bodies. And because the movements are so slow and circular, that has a tremendous impact on the mind and body. So over a period of time, women are able to release stress, and which is something that every person is plagued with in today's world. I mean, regardless of gender, especially women, I would say, women like South Asian women like us, and therefore the dance form, amongst all the other Indian dance forms, is very healing, therapeutic, and empowering. Ta, ta, ta. Dhi, I, ta, ta, dhi. So the torso, the play of the torso is the most significant aspect of the dance form, and you will notice that all the movements are circular in nature. For example, I also say this with a lot of conviction because I've worked with a lot of healers, some of them Indian healers, and some Tai Chi experts like Charlene Wine in LA, who's a Tai Chi expert, very senior Tai Chi expert, and a martial art expert, Chinese martial art expert. And I've worked with a healer called Arun Gauri, who, after working with them, I discovered why the movements of Mohiniyattam are so healing, therapeutic, and empowering. Why? And then also discovered that the technique of Mohiniyattam is also very reminiscent of the ancient Chinese martial art forms of Tai Chi and Qigong, which are again all about restoration and being therapeutic. Why is it empowering for women? Because the very spirit and the essence of the dance form is the divine feminine, the sacred feminine. So as women, when we dance, whether you're a South Asian or you're a Bengali or you're an African or Algerian or American, it speaks to all women all over the world. So here we are talking about half the population of the world that it's relevant for. And everybody doesn't have to be a hotshot Mohiniyattam dancer, but it is available, the experience, because it enables women to connect with their own femininity and discover the power of their own femininity, where we don't have to be like a man to be powerful, but it's a question of discovering the power of our own femininity, of being true to who we really are. So that is the tremendous relevance of a traditional dance form like this. To me, that is just so phenomenal.
Yes, and this dance form, we did talk about, and I have also seen you, being very emphatic about the femininity, and just like you were saying it, but there's a lot of misunderstandings. There are lots of things that's written about what Mohiniyattam is, and I know it is not academically relevant Wikipedia, but people, when they want to look at what is this dance form, I think this is the quick, okay, this is what it is. And I was startled myself when I saw somebody called Justine Limos had, sort of defined it as Mohiniyattam as a celebration of eroticism, fertility, wealth, and hospitality. So how would you bust these sort of myths or misunderstandings? I mean, when this is in one of the mainstream platforms that most people will be accessing.
Right. This is a very good point that you've raised, actually. I think very critical that you have brought something like this, to the forefront, because when we talk about a non-Indian, a foreigner trying to describe the dance form, you sort of can excuse them to a large extent, because first of all, they don't belong to this culture. I think even for us as belonging to this culture, born and raised in this culture, we think we understand everything, but that's really not true.
Yes.
It's really not true.
Yeah.
And so as a foreigner, even if we sort of forgive her, but she really could not be more far away from the truth than that, about describing the dance form as, being about wealth. And this is sort of I would say, a very loose and a very limited, amateurish definition, if you may, if you will, of the dance form. It's not about hospitality, and it's not about the service industry or the hotel industry, or it's not it's not wealth, because it's with the feminine, sacred feminine, so she threw in the wealth element and all of that. So that's not true at all. The dance form is, Mohiniyattam translates into dance of the divine enchantress. We're talking about Vishnu.
Yes.
Vishnu is not an ordinary person, right? So Vishnu transforming himself, the dance form is rooted in the divine feminine. And the deeper meaning, it's very important that Mohiniyattam dancers who are born and raised in Kerala itself and outside of Kerala, for them to realize that the dance form is not about seduction.
Okay.
It is not about enticement. It might appear to be so on the face of it, but the deeper meaning of Mohiniyattam is, why did Vishnu take that alluring form? To lure demons to their own annihilation. But the deeper meaning of that is to lure one from lust to higher consciousness.
That's very profound.
It is, and that is the true meaning. So if here we're talking about Vishnu transforming as Mohini, which is not an ordinary person. So can it be about seduction, or can it be just simple seduction? No, that would be almost diminishing the dance form.
Yes.
Won't that be diminishing the dance form?
Yes, now that you put it this way, yes, definitely.
Right. And also what happens is, if you don't understand the very essence of anything, in this case a dance form, what you build on it is completely faulty. It's not going to make any sense. It's going to be faulty and fall apart.
Right.
That's what happened, and that's what continues to happen to some extent.
Yes. And then you did also talk about, with the, we're talking about movement, we're talking about how it is interpreted. And you did demonstrate a bit where you say the movement, if it is not about, a particular posture or a stance that you're at, but it is about how did you get there. It's about the process. You talk about that. It's very relevant today, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you brought it up. And again, to me, the technique of it's another revelation of how powerful the technique of this dance form is. For example, it's very easy to do this, whatever. In this very result-oriented world, to me, the technique of Mohiniyattam is very profound, because it's all about the process. Now, we are not interested in, I can do this very easily, but I'm more interested in how am I getting there, in the how. To me, that is the beauty and the power.
Indeed.
Right? So we're not really rushing anywhere. And even if we really tie it in with our Hindu spiritual traditions, they're all the time underlining process over result.
Goal, yes.
Journey over destination.
Yes. And you did also mention in the movement there's an aspect of letting go.
Yes. Yeah, I
Yes.
love that
because
part.
we don't let go, we cling on, and I thought that was a revelation.
That's how I have felt about the movement. I mean, for example, if there's dheem, tat, now if I just do dheem and my neck is stiff and everything and I'm not letting go, my neck is going to hurt, my back is going to hurt, and I'm going to be drained of all my energy. But if I just say dheem, tat, dheem, and I'm relaxed, my neck is relaxed, torso is relaxed, and I'm just allowing my body to sway, there's a huge difference there, because you're just letting go. So the dance form the technique almost compels you to let go. But here I want to say something very important, that what is it that made, when my mother and Guru Bharati Shivaji began her tryst with Mohiniyattam about 4.5 decades ago, what is it that made her reconstruction and rejuvenation of the dance form and the repertoire? What is it that propelled Mohiniyattam and established it on the national and international map? What is it that she did that was so singular, that was never done before? That's the reason why the whole country woke up to Bharati Shivaji's Mohiniyattam, and then the world eventually. Why? Because she was able to immediately see the potential of the technique. She, increased the repertoire. It was a very limited repertoire, and also a repertoire that was not truly reflecting the ethos of Kerala. It was not reflecting. There were Carnatic Tamil influences, there were Telugu patams. Why on earth are we doing the Tamil stuff and Telugu stuff? Why, how does it even apply to Mohiniyattam?
Okay.
It has zero connection. So the first thing she did was eliminate all these Tamil corruptions from the dance form. It's kind of funny because we are Tamilians. But That's what we both have done. We've removed all the Tamil elements because they don't belong to Mohiniyattam. They simply don't belong. She just brought in all these Kerala influences, literary, sculptural, musical traditions, dance drama traditions. And then I was very fortunate to have imbibed this very solid understanding of Mohiniyattam from the age of about 10. Yes. Not only witnessing the process, but actively being part of it, dancing it from the age of about 11. So my journey of Mohiniyattam has been almost on the same length, has been parallel to that of my guru. That how blessed am I for that? How fortunate and how blessed am I for that? So because I got these rules so well, I was able to play with it and break it also.
Right. No, this is very interesting. You talk about your Guru Mother Bharati Shivaji, the renowned dancer who's contributed so much. And but your experience has been very immersive, hasn't it, with being around dance and even being part of the research that your mother had been conducting. And so it was a very immersive experience. And from that, there's so much that's come out through you, the contribution you have brought about and has made to this art form and more, finding therapy, and there's so much more. There's history, science, and you are going it into a multi-disciplinary aspect of this dance form. And this immersive experience that, or the exposure that you've had, how do you think we could have that in our world today, in the contemporary times? How is that possible for youngsters to have an experience like this, to stretch their abilities and their skills, and to break the glass ceiling like you have very wonderfully done here?
Right. No, it's a wonderful question that you've asked. Really great question. I think one, of course, I had this immersive experience with my mother at Mohiniyattam and Kerala and all its rich ethos. She could look at things that insiders, that people in Kerala could not. Otherwise, why didn't Mohiniyattam blossom the way it did? Because she looked at it with such fresh eyes. And every little thing, what they eat, what they wear, how they talk, how they breathe, not just dance, how their cinema is, she's watched so much of cinema, what they talk everywhere, or how they sit, or how they even eat, every little thing.
Even music, thala, and even vocal, this thing, everything she was trying to bring back to the original, purely this regional flavor. But she stayed here, studied even Malayalam.
Because I realized that she was born for that. She was made for dancing, and she had entered into the genius of Mohiniyattam.
Mohiniyattam is visual poetry. The romantic fragrance of its movements and music reflect the geography and the cultural ethos of Kerala.
But also, I started traveling and performing internationally from the age of 12. So that exposure was something else. What people read in National Geographic, I was experiencing for myself. And then beyond that, going to countries like Pyongyang and North Korea in '89, shaking hands with Kim Il-sung, giving him the welcome speech, dancing for him and his big audience. Those are unique experiences that you can't even buy with money, no matter how much wealth you have. So that really opened my mind very early in my life. Growing up in Delhi, having a very open mind, I would say, is the first prerequisite. Because it's very easy for us to box a person and to very quickly label somebody and define them. You're a dancer, you're an Indian classical dancer, therefore you look like this, you dress like this, you dance, you eat like this, you sit like this. But whose business is it to box you and define you? Nobody has the right to do that. Who has taken on that authority? For example, for me, because I come from a family of musicians, my grandmother just turned 100, she's a Carnatic singer, I love to sing. I've sung with the Bollywood composers. I love to act. My grandmother was in theatre. So I discovered my love of acting.
All right, let's bring the lights to half, please.
Yo te dije que me dejaran, que ya no quiero nada con tu amor. Ya me hiciste que mucho daño y me mataste.
I can destroy you.
La pâle bien, l'autre se tait. C'est l'autre que je préfère. Il n'a rien dit, mais il me plaît.
Who is anybody to box me? But I think as human beings, it is allowing ourselves again to let go and to let go of our fears and inhibitions and all the opinions and conditioning that we grew up. This is who you are, this is a doctor must be like this, engineer must be like this, dancer must be like this. But it is to have the courage to say, that might be your truth, it's not mine. You know, I love to express myself like this, I'd love to do this, this is also me. So it is a very beautiful thing that I learned during my healing time, that most of the world, people are defined by what they do. She is so and so, she's Vijayalakshmi, a dancer. But it should be the other way around. What we do should be colored by who we are, not the other way around.
Right.
It's very huge, very profound.
Yes.
Something I had learned a couple of years ago. So if we as a person, whatever regardless of gender, if our true self can flow into every form of expression, isn't that so much more better, so much more enriching, so much more joyful, so much more fulfilling and exuberant, and than just limiting ourselves just because based on other people's perception and sometimes our own perception of ourselves.
Right.
Our own perception.
Yes.
It's liberating, it's freeing. Now you might love literature, you might love Shakespeare, you might love poetry and whatever else, but you might also be dancing Mohiniyattam. You might also love theatre. You might also like curating an art festival. So there are so many dimensions to you. So allowing ourselves to be open is number one. And developing the courage to make forays into these, allow ourselves these different forms of expression.
Right. That's very interesting. And, we've talked about this particular thing you just mentioned. And I found this very interesting that you said, taking out, keeping the Mohiniyattam rich with Kerala traditions and practices, and removing the adulterated or contaminated bits. So you're keeping that art form as is, but your own international work, you've taken Mohiniyattam out and you've experimented with Mohiniyattam, and you have had many collaborations, Hollywood. You have done the Swan Lake, the rain that we talked about, you've brought in other aspects. So could you tell us a bit about keeping that art form as is, but then when you do your adaptations, how you make it global? It's very enriching. that, that it doesn't have to be contaminated, but when you bring in the other aspects, it's very graceful and very revealing.
Right. That's a lovely, fabulous question. So when I began my my own choreography about a little over 25 years ago, it was with Unniarcha, inspired from Vadakan particles from the very soil of Kerala. It remains to date one of my most fulfilling.
We should do it again.
I have to do it again. Lot of people, and they say, my God, even when I talk about it, I get goosebumps. And the Vadakan particle, oh my God, it is so divine, so powerful. Just talking about it gives me goosebumps. Kalaripayattu, and she's completely redefining, sort of expanding the definition of femininity itself. Femininity is only not about looking pretty and I'm sad and lean because my Lord is not there and my lover or God is not there.
Okay.
I've introduced Veera Rasa, expanding the definition of Shringara Rasa to include Veera Rasa.
Yes.
It worked beautifully. But beyond that, I was able to sort of bravely venture into international collaborations because I understood the essence of the dance form very well. So I've always had 100% clarity about the dance. 100%. So whether it was Jewish sacred music or it was Western classical music like Tchaikovsky, I always loved Western classical music. In my teen years, I would listen to a lot of Beethoven and Mozart. Although my grandmother shoved Carnatic music down my throat, which I really did not like at all, almost virtually resented. But I'm so grateful to her that she did that because I sang because of that. And that's been very useful. But therefore, I was able to have an open mind to Tchaikovsky. I've spent a lot of time in Russia, in the erstwhile USSR, before pre-perestroika. I was introduced to a lot of Russian classical music and opera and Mussorgsky. So again, I'm talking about openness. Mind has to be open.
Okay.
To be able to absorb and let things come in. Otherwise, if the mind it's like a frog in the well. That's what happened with Mohiniyattam in Kerala, where they just refused to have an open mind. This is what my guru taught me, this is what I learned in Kalamandalam, that's it. If I digress, I'm corrupting the dance form. No, that's not true. So because this essence of the dance form I had imbibed so well, there was never any trepidation of my transgressing. Even if I tried, I couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like saying, do I need to remind myself I'm a woman? No. Nobody needs to remind me. So it's the same thing with Mohiniyattam. Even if I tried, I can't transgress.
Yes.
It's also a testament to how versatile the idiom of Mohiniyattam is. As I saw it, I see that the idiom of the vocabulary of the dance form is so phenomenal. It can lend itself with equal ease to Unniarcha. It can be Swadi Tirunal, it can be Jayadeva's Gita Govinda, it can be Tchaikovsky, it can be Jewish sacred music. What does it tell you about the technique of the dance form? I never saw the technique through a limited lens. I see infinite possibilities. That's why Hollywood collaborations, Carmen, Bizet, opera works fabulously. Which element is not Mohiniyattam? Nothing that is not Mohiniyattam. What does it say about the vocabulary? Sorry, you can ask me the
No, surely. No, that's very interesting. And you have set up the Institute of Mohiniyattam in LA.
Yes,
I believe.
the Mohiniyattam Institute.
The Mohiniyattam Institute. So you are taking it, it's an effort to take it far and wide and to have more people experience something as wonderful as it is. The livelihood aspect of art and for artists, it is still a struggle, isn't it? And as an artist, what would you suggest should be our efforts, and how could we turn this around? Do you think we can turn this around, and how do you think we could? And you also mentioned about early learning and exposure, school level to these sort of art forms. Is that also something that can help with the livelihood aspect of it?
Right. Actually, both I would see as sort of unrelated questions in some ways,
Sure.
perhaps. But your first question is fabulous. So is your second one. Yes, this has always been something that has, plagued artists, especially in classical dancers. How viable is it? And, unlike other professions. I think the first thing is the conditioning around being an Indian classical dancer. I think the most important thing is, for example, somebody like me who's learned from a very older generation. For my mother, it was art was always a form of worship and continues to be. It is for me as well. But we need to go beyond that, where if you're running an organization, it is also a business. You're also running a business. So the bottom line is, art and business should not be mutually exclusive. Business is not a dirty word in art. Needs to be underlined, especially for people like me who's been so conditioned by my mother and guru, who thinks business is a dirty word, money is a dirty word. There should be not even a whiff of money to be talked about in art, in the arts. That is a very detrimental route and a very absolutely impractical, unrealistic, because we are not sitting in a cave. We are not some apsaras sitting in a cave meditating. We are living in this real world where everything is a business. Everything is commerce. So art also cannot be exempt. I mean, we have big spiritual gurus. You think they do anything free there? No. There's a lot of money in those places.
Yes.
Right? And we're talking about spiritual experiences.
Yes.
So why are Indian classical dancers expected to be having a hand-to-mouth life, or where money is considered a dirty word? We are also living in this world paying the same bills. So the mindset.
It's time to review the mindset.
It's about time. And I think that the younger generation is pretty smart about it, and they do realize it. And I get this asked a lot, and I said, I always see that younger generation should make inroads into universities, academic institutions, where you get teaching opportunities. Those are, they work very well, they can give you a stable income, teaching in a reputed academic institution, besides opening other doors for you, especially if you're situated internationally. This is what I tell younger Mohiniyattam dancers.
Right. No, you do mention younger Mohiniyattam dancers and the younger generation as well. And we did talk about this being a fast-paced world, and of course we can't rule out technology. It's everywhere. We are completely seduced by social media, or people around us are. So has that also helped in terms of, you also teach online, you have mentioned. So how has technology played a part in this dance form, and do you look forward to better opportunities through this, or does it, you want to take a step back and assess it? How are you viewing this?
Yeah, that's a very relevant question. When social media onslaught, see, it's a double-edged sword. One is you have also mediocrity being thrown at your face, mediocrity and much below mediocrity. Worse, you can't even exalt it by calling it, even mediocrity would be an exaltation. I know it sounds very harsh, but it's the truth coming from me. So you have, the people, the innocent people. I always see people, the audience is children. They don't know what's good, what is the real deal. And they are being, assaulted with all kind of stuff in social media, including art. So you have all that. But this is a very powerful medium. So I really can't say that I want to sort of lead a reclusive life and I don't want to ever be in front of social media. That's not true at all. In fact, I want to be on it as much as possible so that people are able to have a chance to listen to what Mohiniyattam or what the art forms are really about, instead of just a marketing gimmick or a PR social media gimmick, which most of it is in today's world. So let them see some meaty content that's good for them.
Good. Yes. Yeah. And we missed that one bit where we talked about introducing the art forms, be it dance, music, really early on, and and maybe taking it out of the extracurricular. The titles are always extracurricular in school level for art and music, dance and music, isn't it?
Right. I think it should be named critical curricular. It's extracurricular. Why? Because young people are falling apart. They're burning out. By the time a kid hits 30, they're just burning out. They're having mental health issues, or they're having physical health issues. What does it say? It's just too much. The stress levels are too high, and they are struggling to cope and deal with stress. Western medicine certainly has no solution for that. Beyond pills, and pills don't do anything. So it is a dance form like Mohiniyattam, dance forms, traditional art forms like this, that can really equip the younger generation if we introduce them at a younger age, like yoga, and tell them, of course, life is not, it's only going to become more and more challenging. We cannot wish away stress, but how do we develop a mechanism where we learn how to cope with stress? How do we cope with it where we don't fall apart and burn out in our early 30s? So this can be a very powerful experience for children. Not wait till we hit our 50s and find out some big diseases hit us and then wake up in life. Why learn it the hard way? in the cruel way.
Yes, that's true. So I know we are pressed for time, but it's just that I'm so glad we got this time, and you spoke so much to us about the different things that you have packed into this unfathomable depth of this dance form, and the many aspects of it, many extremely relevant, multidisciplinary. And I think I really hope that our viewers take that from this, that it's not just this dance form, and you talk about how do you get there, how do you enjoy the process. I want to ask you about your international projects and assignments, and I know that you travel a lot, you spend a lot of your time outside India as well, and you are about to leave for a while. Would you tell us about your work, and what is it that you're excited about, something that is coming up for you, and some wonderful news that we could await?
Of course, I'm super greedy when it comes to the West, super greedy for Mohiniyattam. And the whole idea of setting up the institute in LA is to give it the maximum international exposure and to present Mohiniyattam in all the mainstream festivals and venues of America. Where, like UCLA, I was a regional scholar in 2020, an honor that they've given to apparently Nobel laureates in their 55-year history. So I'm super greedy. Presenting Mohiniyattam in Broadway, that I did many years ago. Next year, what I have slated is performing for the JLF, Jaipur Literature Festival in New York, for their opening of the festival. Then performing for their opening of their new edition JLF in Seattle. And some acting collaborations, because I'm also an actress, so I'm looking forward to acting and doing some really good cinema, and releasing my CD, the CD that I've sung. I want to release it with Macville. That's something that's been pending for many, many years, and people keep asking me, where can we buy this music? Where can we? So that needs to be done. So. Those are some of the exciting things.
Oh, yes. And we will be posting some of the details, and we will have some of the clips of your performances and bits with this conversation that we've had. And I'm just not leaning back, but I am kind of swaying after this conversation. It's so, wonderfully liberating, just knowing so much. So we're extremely grateful that you've given us this time ahead of you traveling. You're traveling this evening, and wish you all the best from both O and AIDEM. And we look forward to seeing many and more of your work and performances, and we will be very happy to talk about it. And any suggestions, any questions you have, please reach out to us. We will post the email address, and we will bring that to you. And thank you so much for staying with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.